Life Chronicles. And I remember watching that, and I remember watching the scene where Elisa falls off the waterfall or whatever dam area it is, and then gets caught in the falls, and it looks like she's dead. And then we don't really find out to the end that she's alive because she was saved by the very person that was an enemy at the time and who was posing as a cop just to scout around for the gargoyles. You know? So things like that. So no one really knew. In fact, the very first, the movie pilot, Awakening, that was a question in itself. For at least 3 episodes, 4 episodes actually, for at least 3.5 episodes, we didn't know if Demona was alive or dead. And then when we saw her alive, it's like it told us, hey, she's fine, but then she turns out to be evil. Go figure, right? But anyway, what I'm saying is, it's stuff like that, leading ladies like that, or leading villainess, if you will, in Demona's case, it always makes us come back for more. And so what does this have to do with what I'm about to say? Well, it has to do a lot, because the character I'm talking about that is associated with this, even currently right now, is Princess Sally Acorn in the Saga comic book and franchise. You see, right now, or at least about 4 months ago, in the 225th anniversary issue, Sally was supposedly killed off, if you will, shot off screen by a Torrance gun while going down a hallway. Now, a lot of people were pissed off at that because they felt that the comic book writer Ian Flynn was cheaply going to kill one of the most popular and most legendary characters in the comic book and in the overall franchise off just like that without a care. Now, some have seen the cover, the preview cover for 230. And they said that if she does what they feel, now they've said that if Sally is written to do what they feel she's going to do, either sacrifice herself heroically to help save the planet, then they could accept that. But they can't accept the fact of her being shot off screen just like that for no reason. They can't accept the fact of her power being veganized and roboticized for no reason, or turned into a mental Sally or Sonic. They can't accept that. They can't accept that because they feel that would be a way of cheapening off whatever situation you're putting her in. That's many fans feel that way. You know, I remember, and I've used a great example, and I'll use it again. I remember back when I read the Endgame Saga, which Ken Penders had wrote because he thought the comic book was going to come to an end with issue 50. And he wanted to kill off Sally with dignity, I guess, to where her fans would still be around. That didn't work because the fans and Sega wanted her back. Now the thing is with Sally's situation right now is that she's currently in the Genesis Saga, which is sort of like a soft reboot. Sort of as some fans have put it, Archie Comics, Ian Flynn's version of DC's Zero Hour, or DC's Comic Countdown, or whatever. That's what it is to them. Or Marvel's House of M. That's what it is to many fans. And many fans don't like that. Now, Ian Flynn has come out and said that he was asked to do something in celebration of the 20th anniversary of the franchise. Hey, that's cool and everything. That's cool and everything, but I've said this before and I still stick by it. You could have done it in a spin-off. But I guess since this has to do with the continuity in some ways, it had to be put in the main comic book, right? What I'm saying, folks, is this. You know, Sally's situation is very similar to what I've mentioned before with the other leading ladies. Every issue, everybody's always wondering what's going to happen to her. Yeah, they're seeing her right now in the Genesis Saga. But they don't really know what's going to happen to her outside of that when everything gets back to status quo. That's why they're anticipating and waiting for 230 and 231, but some of them are waiting for it and anticipating it with dread because they feel she's going to be cheaply offed, if you will, by Ian Flynn for shock value, as he puts it. And, or some feel he's going to cheaply legionize or roboticize her. And they're not going to like it. I mean, Paul Kaminsky, I've said this before and I'll say it again, Paul Kaminsky has come out and said that her story, whether she's dead or alive, will not be over. It's just beginning. And a lot of people, when they read that, they're thinking, well, if she's dead, how's it just beginning? How's the story not, her story not over? What's going on? No one really knows. No one really knows. Now the thing is, the reason a lot of fans are upset about the fact that she could be cheaply offed by Ian, or that Ian's doing this for kicks, if you will, and that he might, like I say, cheaply offer or cheaply do this to her and everything, is because they've obviously seen it before in other comic books and other kinds of media. In fact, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a huge example. Let me check my battery life here. Okay, I'm pretty good. But let me give you an example, if you will. Let me give you a huge example. Ultimate Spider-Man. There was an issue where, I guess it was the symbiont, or something, the Carnage symbiont or something, in Ultimate Spider-Man, that one of its abilities was when it killed off somebody, it drained them of the life force and turned them into a dead zombie, if you will, a dead corpse, right? I think that's one of the Ultimate Spider-Man versions of Carnage's powers were, right? Well, here was the thing. I talked about Gwen Stacy being Gwen Stacy. Well, I didn't. Well, yeah, I talked about Gwen Stacy being brought back into the media that week. Well, when Gwen Stacy was brought back in Ultimate Spider-Man, she wasn't killed off by falling off a cliff or falling off the George Washington Bridge. No, she was just coming home and on the front lawn. She was just walking up to her house when the Carnage symbiote comes out of nowhere, engulfs her, if you will, drains her of her life force, and kills her. And that's it. And some people would look at that out of Ultimate Spider-Man and think, wait a minute, he just attacks her, kills her, and that's it? I mean, yeah, a lot of people are upset and everything. Yeah, that's a good thing to show the emotions and the effects of it. But you kill her just like that? I mean, her fall off the George Washington Bridge had more of an impact than that, right? You see, and you see, that's exactly what a lot of fans are saying about this situation with Sally. A lot of people don't like that she's being put in a similar situation to where she can be cheaply offed or cheaply turned into a robot or cheaply turned into a Legion member. They don't like it. They don't like it. And I said this on Saturday morning Sonic Forums. I believe that if she survives, then it's going to be another character with the letter N in their name that may be the sacrificial lamb. I've even gone out and said that it probably will lead to Eggman going back insane. Who knows? But anyway, what I'm saying is, you know, they don't like the fact that Ian's doing this. I mean, they have come out and said that Ian has potential. That he has potential to write good stories. He should know what the fans want, seeing as though he came from the fan base. Ace himself. But the thing is, many fans are saying that what he's doing just for kicks. He's doing for shock value. And I've gone out and said, you know what this is all about? Oh, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Vince Russo in TNA. TNA Wrestling. A lot of wrestling critics and fans and smarks, if you will, don't like the shock value that not Ian, but Vince Russo is always putting into TNA. They don't like the fact that Vince Russo is writing a storyline for this and it doesn't make sense, or writing a storyline for that and it doesn't make sense. They don't like it. They don't like the fact that he's pushing and writing the storyline for Sting and Hogan at Bound for Glory, and a lot of fans don't want to see that match again. Some fans do, some fans don't. But that was always the comparison right there, the fact that what he's doing in TNA is saying what Ian Flynn's doing in the comic, especially with Sally right now. It's all about shock value, and fans don't like that. So in closing, I say this. Sally is definitely joining the list of the leading ladies when it comes to the comic book lead, is definitely joined a huge list of popular leading ladies in comic books that have been put in situations that we have to wait and read about or tune into or go to the theaters and watch about and see what happens next. So that's exactly what's going on with Sally, and that's all I'm going to say on it. Comment down below if you like. Tell me if you agree with any of my comparisons there. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll talk to you later.